Hello friends, so now in this session we will discuss base effect, inflation targeting and those previous questions which have not yet been discussed. So coming to the first aspect, that is base effect. What is the meaning of base effect? So we took this example in one of our lecture where we discussed about measurement of inflation, the price index, etc. And in this example we took certain figures that in 2016 the price index is 120. So I'm just changing the color of the pointer. So in 2016 120, in 2017 the price index is 130, in 2018 the price index is 140, right? So 120, 130 and 140. The rate of inflation, if we see between 2016 and 2017, is 8.33%, and between 2017 to 2018 this is 7.6%. So we can see that between 2016 and 2017 the price index has moved from 120 to 130, that is by 10. So between 2016 to 2017 10 points increased and rate of inflation is 8.33%. Between 2017 to 2018 again the price index increased by 10 points and rate of inflation is 7.6%. So this is the point. Now the question arises, why does in this time, despite the price index increasing by 10 point only, the rate of inflation is 8.33%, and here the price index is increasing by 10 points and rate of inflation is 7.6%, when the price index increment is same, this is same 10 and 10, then why this is high and this is low? This is the question. So the answer is very simple. This 10 point increment, here the base price index is 120, so from 120 to 130. Here in the second case the change is from 130 to 140, so here the base is 130, here the base is 120. So when the base is low, in the previous year, then current year rate of inflation will be higher, slightly higher, and when the previous year base is high, then current year rate of inflation will be slightly lower. So this is called the base effect. This is a very simple calculation, very simple mathematical phenomena, nothing special about it. So very simple thing is that if in the previous year the base is low, then in the current year, even if the prices are rising by moderate level, it may give a high rate of inflation because the base is low, and vice versa. So this is what we call as the base effect. So what is the meaning of base effect? Base effect refers to the phenomena of current year index being influenced by very low or high previous year index. So the impact of previous year index, we are calculating that. So base effect refers to, and we have already given the example. This is another example. This example I have given in the PDF notes. You can see over there and you can understand it very clearly. So in both the cases index number increased by 10, but rate of inflation is different. The rate of inflation in the second is low compared to first because of the high previous year index. This is the concept of base effect. Now, previous year question, in 2011 this question came: a rapid increase in the rate of inflation is sometimes attributed to the base effect. What is the meaning of base effect? Option A, it is the impact of drastic deficiency in supply due to the impact of crops. So this is wrong. It is the impact of surge in the demand due to rapid economic growth. This is wrong. C, it is impact of price level of previous year on the calculation of inflation rate. This is correct. Option D, none of the statement A, B and C. So answer is option C. So answer C is the correct answer. Now, housing price index. So this housing price index is also one of the associated concept. Every year in the economic survey you will find this, so that is why I have included it over here. So it is, so housing basically means residential property. Residential property. So housing price index is simply measuring the movement of residential property in a particular geographical boundary. So friends, real estate sector and residential sector is one of the very crucial sector, be it from the ownership perspective, be it from the rental perspective. From both the perspectives, this housing sector is very crucial. Therefore, a separate index has been kept so that the buyers of the house property, the builders, the developers, the government, they can see how much is the price fluctuation, and accordingly each of them can take the appropriate decision whatever suits to them. NHB Residex, this is the index which has been launched and it is issued by National Housing Bank. Housing price index, the base year is 2012-13 and it captures the latest information, and it is issued for 50 cities on quarterly basis, and the base year is financial year 2012-13. So these are some of the things that you need to keep in mind about this. Rest is, it is very simple. Here you can see the movement of housing price index over from 2011 to 2019. You can see there has been consistent increase. Now, the concept of inflation targeting. This concept we will discuss in the banking sector also, but here I am discussing this concept because this concept is talking about the inflation. So friends, one of the measure to control the inflation that we discussed was the monetary policy. So we discussed that monetary policy can be one of the measure through which the government controls the inflation, right? In this monetary policy, the very crucial rate is repo rate or policy rate. Now, what is the meaning of repo rate or policy rate? That we will discuss in detail in the banking chapter. Here, for the sake of simplicity, it is you can consider this is the interest rate, right? So this is the interest rate or the cost of borrowing. So this interest rate is one of the tool, very important tool to control the money supply. So through this we control the money supply, and when we reduce the money supply, then the demand is reduced, and when the demand is reduced, then inflation is also reduced. Now, previously there was no target how much should be the appropriate inflation. Urjit Patel committee was constituted, and the Urjit Patel committee came up with one recommendation that in India we should be having some target. There should be some range of inflation, and that range should be maintained through movement of the interest rates. So we should keep the interest rate in such a way that inflation is there in a particular range, and this range is publicly defined. This is publicly announced by the government, by the authorities in advance, right? So government will announce the inflation range in advance. So this inflation range will be 2% to 6% of the inflation rate. 2% inflation rate to 6% inflation rate, or in other words we can say 4% plus 2%, minus 2%, or 4% plus 2%. So 4% plus minus 2%, that can be the range. So this is called flexible range. So this is called the concept of inflation targeting. Now, which rate of inflation will we take? Will it be WPI, CPI, PPI, or any other measure? So this will be the CPI. Why CPI? The CPI will be there because CPI is tracking the prices at the buyer's level. It is considering both goods and services, and most importantly, this CPI, it is having a very real touch with the consumer, because it is tracking the goods prices at the consumer level, right? So this concept is called inflation targeting. So inflation targeting is the monetary policy. So this is a monetary policy concept, right? Where a central bank, in case of India, this is the Reserve Bank of India, follows an explicit target. As I told, in India, this target is between 2% to 6% for the medium term. So medium term, it will be normally 5 years. So for example, in India, we have kept the target of 2% to 6% for a period of 5 years. Announces the inflation target to the public in advance. So this will be announced publicly in advance. The assumption is that the best monetary policy can do to support long-term growth will be the price stability. So if we talk about the monetary policy, one of the very important aspect of the monetary policy is price stability, right? So this price stability can be maintained when we have a long-term perspective in our mind. And when there is a price stability, then it brings the long-term growth. It brings the long-term growth because the buyer as well as the producer both can expect the prices to be, prices to be in a particular range. So in this way, this price stability can support the growth in the long term, and therefore we need to have this price stability in our mind, right? Urjit Patel Committee, as we discussed, it was appointed in 2013 by the Reserve Bank of India to strengthen monetary policy framework and to recommend an appropriate nominal anchor. That is, nominal anchor means the reference rate or reference point. The committee recommended for focusing on only one objective. So earlier the monetary policy was focusing both on the economic growth and the inflation. Now this committee is saying that we should explicitly focus upon the inflation. Why inflation targeting is important? So because of inflation there are various negative impacts. What are the negative impacts? We have already discussed. It impacts the purchasing power of the people, it brings inequality, it impacts the government, it actually impacts the export competitiveness, it leads to depreciation in the rupee exchange rate. So there is whole range of issues because of which we really need to control the inflation. So real interest rate, they remain negative, right? What is the meaning of real interest rate being negative? That means when there is inflation rate, for example, inflation rate is 10% and rate of interest is 8%. So in a way, the consumer is losing 2% on an annual basis, right? So real interest rate on the savings, they will remain negative. External competitiveness is eroded because of high price level. So India's goods in the foreign market, they will not be getting preference because of high prices. Continuous weakening of the exchange rate. So all these things we have discussed when we discuss the impacts of the inflation. So the same things I am discussing over here. That is why I am just fast forwarding this discussion. Due to inflation, there will be high imports, and because of high import, there will be current account deficit, which will not be good for the rupee exchange rate. Again, there will be inequality because it is the poor people who are impacted high because of the inflation. Now, why we chose CPI versus WPI? So as compared to WPI, why we chose CPI? So CPI, rural plus urban, that is a combined. We chose because of, first of all, WPI ignores the service sector, which contributes to GDP to the extent of 60%, but CPI includes the services. Secondly, CPI is based on the retail prices, which depict the broader picture of the effect of inflation. So overall, inflation targeting, the RBI will have to achieve 4% CPI inflation plus minus 2%, that I just told you. Lower bound will be 2% and maximum 6%. The target will be applicable till 2021. As I told you, medium term framework. This is the medium term framework. Consumer inflation, if the target is failed for 3 consecutive years, then the government will ask the question from the RBI, and RBI has to give the reasons and has to take the suitable steps to come out of the situation, right? So in case of failure, there is accountability. there is parliamentary accountability. So this inflation targeting mechanism has actually created the accountability on the Reserve Bank of India. Now we have taken numerical target of CPI. So we have taken 4% plus minus 2%. And based upon this, RBI in 2015 signed an agreement with the Government of India on the following points. What are the points? First, there will be flexible inflation targeting, that is between 2% to 6%. Flexible inflation target will be set by the Government of India. Who will set this target? This will be set by the Government of India. This is very, very crucial. Once every 5 years in consultation with the RBI. CPI rural plus urban, that is the combined CPI, will be used as a measure of a nominal anchor for policy decisions. And from 2015 onwards, above agreed points are being implemented. Now coming to the previous year question. With reference to inflation in India, which of the following statements is correct? This question appeared in 2015. A. Controlling the inflation in India is the responsibility of Government of India only. So this is wrong, because we have discussed how to control the inflation through different measures, through monetary policy, through fiscal policy, through foreign trade policy, through administrative measures. So there has to be a range of measures. It is not only the Government of India, but also the Reserve Bank of India and other governments, the state government also, right? Reserve Bank of India has no role in controlling the inflation. This is also very, very clearly wrong answer. Decreased money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. This is very true. So when we increase the interest rate, then money supply is reduced, and this actually reduces the inflation. So answer is option C. Increased money circulation helps in controlling the inflation. This is wrong. So answer is option C. Now we will discuss more previous year questions to complete this chapter of inflation. Consider the following statements. Number 1, inflation benefits the debtors, inflation benefits the bondholders. So these two statements were discussed at the time of discussion of impacts of inflation. So inflation benefits the debtors. This is right or wrong? Inflation benefits the bondholders. This is right or wrong? Which of the following given statements are correct? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. So what is your answer? So answer is 1 only. Why 1 only? Because for debtor, the real interest rate goes down with the inflation. So it is the debtor who benefits, right? So debtor means the person who is receiving the loan. For example, the person is receiving the loan at the rate of 8% of interest rate, and the inflation rate is maybe 6%. So in this case, the real rate of interest will be just 2%, because 6% is, otherwise also, the purchasing power of the money is getting reduced. So this real interest rate is not 8%, it is a 2%. Therefore, it is the debtor, the person who is getting the loan from the bank, who is getting the benefit. However, in case of bond, the yield of bond, the income from the bond, it is going down. Thus, there is a negative effect on the bondholder. For detailed discussion, again, please go to the negative impact of inflation that I discussed in the third or fourth lecture. Please see, and then you can understand this question more clearly again. Next question is, a rise in the general level of prices may be caused by. So rise in general level of prices means inflation. So inflation may be caused by option A, an increase in money supply. This is true. So we discussed in the causes of inflation that one of the reason is money supply, extra money supply. A decrease in aggregate level of output. Yes, if the supply is reduced and demand remains the same, then the prices can rise. So statement 2 is correct. An increase in the effective demand. Yes, if the demand increases, supply remains constant, then also the price can increase. So can we say that in this case the answer will be 1, 2 and 3. So answer is option D. Next question, which one of the following is likely to be the most inflationary in its effect? So question is most inflationary. The question is not simply which will be the inflationary, right? First, repayment of public debt. So repayment of public debt, that means the government is giving the money to the public back. So it will be inflationary. But let us see other options also. Borrowing from the public to finance. Borrowing from the public, that means the government is receiving the money from the public. So this option is completely ruled out. This is not possible, because in this case the money supply is reducing from the market. Therefore this option is completely ruled out. Option C, borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit. Again, borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit. Again, the government is bringing back the money from the system. So option C is also wrong. Option D, creating new money to finance a budget deficit. New money means altogether new money. More money is coming into the market. More money is coming into the market. So this is more inflationary as compared to the option A. So in this case the answer will be option D. So answer with explanation: creating new money to finance a budget deficit. B and C option will lead to increase in the money supply in the market. Option A and D will have more inflationary impact. So answer is option D. Next question. India has experienced persistent and high food inflation. So this question is about the food inflation, and this question appeared in 2011, and this question is asking what are the reasons of high food inflation in recent past. So from 2011, recent past, that is it's almost 10 years back question, and therefore this question you might feel that okay, is this question relevant in the current context or not, but still we will just see this question. Due to a gradual switchover to the cultivation of commercial crops, the area under cultivation of food grains has steadily decreased in the last 5 years by about 30%. So this is one of the factual part, and it can be verified from the economic survey only. However, this 30% looks very awkward, because 30% reduction in the area of food grain cultivation is too high. So it looks wrong. But still we can't say, because we don't have the economic survey of from 2006 to 2011, because this question is very old question, right? This option is actually wrong. This statement is actually wrong. But I am showing you another perspective, how even if we don't have the economic survey, even if we don't have the recent document, still how we can see that this seems to be very wrong, because 30% is too much. As a consequence of increasing income, the consumption pattern of people have undergone a significant change. This is true. When the income of the people is increasing, now people are moving from just filling up their stomach. Now they are thinking about how to get more nutritious food. So they are shifting from rice and wheat to milk, pulses and meat and more nutritious products. So this is the impact of increasing in the income. This is true. The food supply chain has structural constraints. This is very true. These structural constraints in food supply chain have been in India for a long period of time. Therefore, this statement is also true. So, can we say that option 2 and 3, the statement 2 and 3 are the right answer? So, in this case, option B is the correct answer. So, option 2 and 3 are the correct answer. With this, I complete this lecture series, and I will make one more lecture about the inflation at the time of economic survey. So in the economic survey, I will be giving a complete picture of recent trends of the economic this inflation, so that you can solve any kind of data based question regarding the inflation. Thank you very much.